Hey, you guys, picture this. A sleepy English village in the 1920s, wrapped in thick, swirling fog that clings to the cobblestone streets like a ghost. St. Mary Mead looks peaceful, with its quaint cottages and old church, but there's a chill. In the air tonight, a scream slices through the mist, sharp and desperate, echoing from the Vicarage's shadowy garden. Something's wrong, very wrong. The villagers whisper about strange shapes moving in the dark, about a vicar who's been acting odd, and about an old curse tied to the church. Enter Miss Jane Marple, a sharp-eyed spinster with a knack for sniffing out secrets. Can you imagine stumbling into a mystery like this? What's lurking in that fog? And who or what just died at the Vicarage? Stick around, because this is gonna get spooky. All right, you guys, let's dive into this creepy tale. It's 1926, and St. Mary Mead is the kind of place where everyone knows your name, your business, and probably what you had for breakfast. The village sits nestled in a valley, with rolling hills on one side and a gloomy, ancient forest on the other. The air smells of damp earth and wood smoke, and a church steeple pokes through the fog like a bony finger pointing to the sky. It's quiet to quiet, if you ask me. And that's where we meet Miss Jane Marple, knitting by her cottage window. Her sharp eyes missing nothing. Miss Marple's no ordinary old lady. She's got white hair pinned neatly under a lace cap, a soft smile, and a mind like a steel trap. She's lived in St. Mary Mead her whole life, and she knows people, how they think, how they lie, how they hide things. Human nature, she always says, is the same everywhere. And tonight, human nature is about to get messy. It's just past 9 o'clock when the scream rips through the village. I mean, imagine this. You're sipping tea, maybe reading a book, and then bam, a sound like someone's soul just got yanked out. Miss Marple's knitting needles freeze mid-stitch. She tilts her head, listening. As the scream fades into a low, eerie moan, it's coming from the Vicarage, that big, creaky house next to the church where Reverend Clement lives, with his wife, Griselda, and their little boy. Miss Marple sets her knitting down and grabs her shawl. She's not one to sit around when something's up. The fog's so thick outside you can barely see your own feet. But she steps onto the cobblestone path, her boots clicking softly. The village is dark, save for a few flickering lamps in cottage windows. The air feels heavy, like it's holding its breath. Can you picture it? That creepy moment when you know something bad's happened, but you don't know what yet? She hurries toward the Vicarage, her breath puffing in the cold. The church looms to her left, its old stones covered in moss, the graveyard half hidden in the mist. There's a rumor in St. Mary Mead about that church, something about a curse from centuries ago, tied to a vicar who dabbled in things he shouldn't have. Folks say strange shapes move in the graveyard at night, shadows that don't belong to any living person. Miss Marple doesn't believe in ghosts, but she's not so sure about curses. Not tonight, anyway. When she reaches the Vicarage, the front door's wide open, swinging on its hinges. A lantern glows faintly inside, casting wobbly shadows on the walls. "Hello," Miss Marple calls, her voice steady but soft. No answer. She steps into the hall, her eyes scanning the place. The Vicarage smells of old books and wax polish, but there's something else tonight, a sharp, metallic tang. Blood dot in the parlor. She finds Griselda Clement crouched on the floor, her hands shaking as she clutches a handkerchief. Griselda's young, maybe 25, with big blue eyes and a mess of blonde curls. She looks up at Miss Marple, her face pale as milk. It's Leonard," she whispers. "He's dead. Leonard Clement The vicar is slumped in an armchair by the fireplace. His eyes are wide open, staring at nothing, and there's a dark stain spreading across his white shirt. A knife lies on the rug beside him, its blade glinting in the firelight. Miss Marple's heart skips, but she keeps her cool. She kneels beside Griselda, patting her shoulder. There, my dear, she says. Tell me what happened. Griselda's voice shakes as she talks. I was upstairs with little David. Leonard was working on his sermon. Then I heard this awful scream. I ran down, and he was just like this. She covers her face, sobbing. Who would do this? He was a good man. Miss Marple's eyes flick around the room. The windows are shut tight, no sign of a break-in. The fire's still crackling, and a half-finished sermon sits on the desk, the ink still wet. That something's off. There's a book on the floor, an old leather-bound thing. Its pages yellowed and crinkled. It's open to a strange drawing a circle with odd symbols, like something you'd see in a witch's spell book. Miss Marple frowns. Reverend Clement wasn't the type to mess with that sort of thing, was he? Griselda, Miss Marple says gently. Did Leonard have any enemies? Anyone who might have wanted to hurt him? Griselda shakes her head, but there's a flicker in her eyes, like she's holding something back. Miss Marple notices she always does. Before Griselda can answer, there's a noise outside, a low, guttural growl that makes the hairs on your neck stand up. What would you do, you guys? Stay in the creepy vicarage with a dead body, or go check out that noise in the fog? Miss Marple's braver than most. She grabs the lantern and heads to the door, motioning for Griselda to stay put. Outside, the fog's even thicker, curling around the vicarage like a living. The growl comes again, closer this time from the direction of the graveyard. Miss Marple holds the lantern high, its light barely cutting through the mist. She steps onto the path, her heart pounding but her face calm. The churchyard gate creaks as she pushes it open. The gravestones are crooked, half sunk in the earth, and the fog makes them look like they're floating. Then she sees it a shadow, tall and thin, moving between the graves. It's not human, not quite. Too long to twisted, like something stretched out of shape. Show yourself, Miss Marple calls. Her voice sharp. The shadow freezes then, melts into the fog. She takes a step forward and her foot crunches on something. She looks down a small, carved stone, etched with the same weird symbols as the book in the parlour. Her breath catches. This isn't just a murder. There's something darker going on here. Something tied to those old village stories. She hurries back to the vicarage, her mind racing. Griselda's still in the parlour, but now there's someone else, Constable Hurst, the village policeman, looking grim. Miss Marple, he says, tipping his hat. Heard the commotion. This is a bad business. He's a big man with a red face and a mustache that twitches when he's nervous. He's nervous now. Indeed it is, Miss Marple says, her eyes narrowing. Constable, have you ever heard of anything strange happening in the churchyard? Hurst shifts uncomfortably, glancing at the window. Just old tales, ma'am. Nothing to bother about. But he doesn't sound convinced. Miss Marple doesn't push him. She's already piecing things together, her mind like a puzzled board. The vicar's dead, stabbed in his own home. No sign of a struggle, no forced entry. That book with its creepy symbols, that shadow in the graveyard, that stone, she's got a feeling they're all connected. And Griselda's not telling the whole truth. Miss Marple's seen that look before. The one people get when they're scared of more than just a murder. The constable starts asking Griselda questions. But Miss Marple's only half listening. She's thinking about the village, about the whispers of a curse, about the way the fog seems to watch you. What's out there, you guys? Is it a killer hiding in plain sight? Or something worse, something that doesn't belong in the light? She glances at the book again, its pages fluttering, like they're alive. Whatever's going on, she's going to find out as the clock strikes 10. Another sound cuts through the night, not a scream this time, but a low, chilling laugh from somewhere deep in the fog. Miss Marple's hand tightens on her shawl. The mystery's just begun, and it's already darker than she expected. What's hiding in St. Mary Mead? And who's next? Chapter 2. Let's catch up real quick. Last time we were in the creepy village of St. Mary Mead. 1926, where a scream shook the night. Miss Jane Marple, our sharp-as-attack spinster, found Reverend Clement dead in his vicarage, stabbed, with a weird old book full of strange symbols nearby. His wife, Griselda, was a mess, maybe hiding something. Then there was that eerie shadow in the graveyard and a carved stone with those same symbols. Oh, and a chilling laugh from the fog to top it all off. Can you imagine being stuck in that spooky mess? Now, let's dive into Chapter 2, where things get even weirder. The morning after the murder, St. Mary Mead is buzzing like a kicked beehive. The fog's still thick, wrapping the village in a grey blanket that muffles every sound. Miss Marple's up early, sipping tea in her cosy cottage, her knitting needles clicking like a metronome. But her mind's not on scarves, it's on that knife, that book, and that shadow she saw last night. She's got a hunch this isn't just a simple killing. There's something off about this place, something that makes your skin crawl. She steps outside, pulling her shawl tight against the damp chill. The village square's already alive with gossip. Mrs. Price, the baker's wife, is whispering to the postman about curses and bad omens. Old Mr. Hawthorne, who's lived here forever, mutters about the churchyard being restless. Miss Marple listens, her eyes sharp behind her spectacles. She knows gossip's like a puzzle, half of it's nonsense, but the other half might just hold the truth. She heads to the vicarage to check on Griselda. The place looks even creepier in daylight, its ivy-covered walls looming like they're guarding secrets. Griselda's in the parlour, pale and jumpy, cradling a cup of tea she hasn't touched. Miss Marple, she says, her voice wobbly, I can't stay here. Not after. What happened? Her eyes dart to the corner where the creepy book still lies, now closed, but somehow more ominous. Griselda, my dear, Miss Marple says, sitting beside her. You must tell me everything. Did Leonard mention anything unusual lately? Anything about that book? Griselda hesitates, twisting her handkerchief. He was reading it a lot, she admits. Said it was just history. Something about the old vicars. But he got so strange, locking himself in his study, muttering about keeping it sealed. I thought he was just tired. Miss Marple's ears perk up, sealed. What did he mean? Griselda shakes her head, but there's that look again like she's scared to say more. Miss Marple doesn't push. She's learned you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. Instead, she pats Griselda's hand and says, You rest now. I'll have a look around. What would you do, you guys? Poke around a murder scene, or leave it to the police? Miss Marple's not one to sit back. She slips into the vicar's study, a small room stuffed with books and papers. The air smells of dust and ink, and the curtains are drawn, making it feel like a tomb. That leather-bound book's on the desk now, moved since last night. She opens it carefully, her fingers brushing the brittle pages. The symbols are there again, circles, lines, and squiggles that look like they belong in a nightmare. There's a note in the vicar's handwriting. The seal must hold. The shadow wakes. Miss Marple's heart skips. This isn't just some old book. It's tied to whatever's going on, and she's betting it's connected to that shadow in the graveyard. She tucks the note in her pocket and heads outside, determined to check the churchyard again. The fog's so thick it's like wading through soup, but she knows her way around St. Mary Mead blindfolded. The graveyard's even spookier in the daytime. The gravestones tilt like drunken sailors, and the air feels heavy like it's pressing down on you. Miss Marple finds the spot where she saw the shadow last night, near an old, crumbling tomb. The carved stone she stepped on is still there. Half buried in the grass, she kneels, brushing dirt away, and sees the symbols match the book exactly. But there's something else, a faint scratch mark, like something heavy was dragged across. The ground dots, she follows the marks, her boots sinking into the soft earth. They lead to the tomb, its door slightly ajar. Now, picture this, a dark, musty tomb in a foggy graveyard, and you're about to peek inside. Creepy, right? Miss Marple's no coward. She pushes the door open, wincing at the creak. Inside, it's pitch black, but her eyes adjust and she sees steps leading down. The air smells of damp stone and something sour like decay. There's a faint glow at the bottom, flickering like a candle. She's about to step down when someone grabs her arm. She spins around, heart pounding, to see Tom Blackwood, the church sexton. He's a weary man with a face like a weathered fence post, and he looks terrified. Miss Marple, you shouldn't be here, he hisses. This place ain't safe, Tom. She says, calm as ever, what's down there? He shakes his head, his eyes wide. Old things, bad things. The vicar was poking into stuff he shouldn't have. Now he's dead and it's stirred up. He won't say more, just pulls her back toward the churchyard gate, muttering about keeping it shut. Miss Marple's mind is racing. Tom's scared, Griselda's hiding something, and that book's got clues she can't ignore. She heads back to the village, stopping at the tea shop to think. It's a cozy place, with lace curtains and the smell of fresh scones, but even here the mood's tense. The villagers are whispering about the murder, about the curse, about strange noises in the night. Miss Marple sips her tea, listening. She's good at that, picking up the little threads of truth in a tangle of rumors. A young woman at the next table, Elsie Turner, catches her eye. Elsie's the blacksmith's daughter, with freckles and a nervous habit of twisting her braid. Miss Marple, she says quietly, leaning over, I saw something last night near the church. A figure, tall and thin, moving funny like it wasn't right. Her voice drops to a whisper. I think it was watching the vicarage. Miss Marple nods, her face kind but her brain in overdrive. Did you tell the constable, Elsie? The girl shakes her head. He'd think I'm daft, but I know what I saw. Miss Marple believes her. She's seen that shadow too, and it's no trick of the light. Back at her cottage, Miss Marple spreads the vicar's note and her own sketches of the symbols on her table. She's starting to see a pattern. The book, the stone, the tomb there, all linked to this seal the vicar mentioned. And that shadow, it's not just a person sneaking around, it's something else. Something that's got the whole village on edge. She remembers the old stories about a vicar from the 1600s, accused of witchcraft, buried in that very tomb. The villagers said he swore to return, to wake the shadow. Is that what's happening now? As night falls, the fog thickens and the village feels like it's holding its breath. Miss Marple's at her window, watching the churchyard. The air's heavy with that same sour smell from the tomb. Then she hears it a faint, rhythmic tapping, like something knocking from inside the earth. It's coming from the churchyard, steady and deliberate. Her heart races, but she's not scared. Not yet. She's curious. What's down there, you guys? Is it a killer playing tricks or something older? Something tied to that curse? She grabs her lantern, ready to head back to the graveyard when there's a knock at her door. It's Constable Hurst, looking grim. "Miss Marple," he says, "we found something in the vicar's study. You need to see this." His voice is tight, like he's seen something he can't explain. What's waiting for her at the vicarage? And what's knocking in the dark? Chapter 3. Let's catch up quick. Last time in St. Mary Mead, 1926, things got downright creepy. Reverend Clement was found stabbed in his vicarage. A weird book full of strange symbols nearby. Miss Jane Marple, our sharp-eyed spinster, spotted a shadowy figure in the foggy graveyard and found a carved stone with those same symbols. Griselda, the vicar's wife, is acting cagey, and Tom Blackwood, the sexton, warned about bad things in an old tomb. Then there was that eerie tapping from the churchyard. And now Constable Hurst has something to show Miss Marple in the vicar's study. Can you imagine diving deeper into this spooky puzzle? Let's go. Miss Marple hurries through the fog with Constable Hurst, her lantern casting shaky shadows on the cobblestone path. The village is swallowed in a grey haze, the air thick with damp and a sour, rotten smell that clings to your nose. The vicarage looms ahead, its dark windows like empty eyes, except for one flickering light in the study. Hurst is quiet, his mustache twitching nervously. "It's odd, Miss Marple," he says, his voice low. "Found something you need to see." Inside, the study's a mess, paper strewn across the floor, books toppled like they've been shoved. The leather-bound book with those creepy symbols is missing, which makes Miss Marple's stomach knot. She was sure it held clues. Hurst points to the desk where a small wooden box sits, its lid etched with the same symbols from the graveyard stone. It was under a floorboard. He says, "Locked, but listen." He taps it, and a low hum vibrates from inside like a trapped wasp. Picture this, you guys, a humming box in a dead man's study, covered in weird symbols. Would you open it? Miss Marple's curious but careful. She leans closer, not touching it yet. The wood's old, polished smooth, and the symbols seem to shimmer faintly, like they're alive. "Have you tried opening it, Constable?" she asks. Hurst shakes his head, looking uneasy. "Didn't feel right. Thought you'd know what to make of it." She doesn't, not yet, but her mind's piecing things together. The vicar's note mentioned a seal and a shadow waking. This box, the missing book, the tumits, all part of the same dark thread. She's about to suggest finding a locksmith when a crash echoes from the parlour. Hurst grips his truncheon, and Miss Marple tightens a hold on the lantern, her heart thumping but her face calm. They creep down the hall, the floorboards groaning under their steps. In the parlour, Griselda's by the fireplace, a broken teacup at her feet. Her face is pale, her hands shaking. "I heard it again," she whispers. "That laugh out in the garden." Miss Marple glances at the window, but the fog's so thick it's like a wall. She strains her ears, and there it is, a low, mocking chuckle from the dark, sending a chill down your spine. "Stay here, Griselda," Miss Marple says firmly. She nods to Hurst, and they step into the garden, the fog curling around them like smoke. The rose bushes cast jagged shadows, and that sour smell is stronger now, almost choking. The chuckle fades, replaced by a rustling near the churchyard fence. Hurst tenses, but Miss Marple holds up a hand. "Patience," she whispers. She's learned you don't catch a snake by stomping on its tail. They follow the sound, moving slowly to the garden's edge where it meets the graveyard. That carved stone's still there, its symbols glinting in the lantern's glow. But now there's something new, deep scratches in the dirt, like something clawed its way through. Miss Marple kneels, her fingers tracing the marks. They're too wide, too jagged for any animal she knows. Her breath catches. Whatever did this isn't from around here. Hurst mutters about village superstitions, but his voice wavers. Miss Marple stands, her mind racing. She's thinking of Elsie Turner's story about a tall, thin figure, and Tom Blackwood's warnings about the tomb. She's about to suggest checking the churchyard when a scream cuts through the fog, not from the vicarage, but from the village square. It's sharp, terrified, and it's Elsie's voice. They run, the fog making every step a gamble. The square's a mess when they arrive, villagers spilling out of the tea shop and pub. Faces white as chalk. Elsie's crumpled on the ground, her braid undone, her eyes huge with fear. It was here. She gasps, pointing toward the church. That thing, it reached for me. Miss Marple kneels beside her, voice gentle but firm. Describe it. Elsie, every detail. The girl shudders. Tall, skinny, like a shadow stretched wrong. Its eyes, they glowed, Miss Marple, like fire. The crowd whispers words like curse and demon floating around. Hurst tries to hush them, but Miss Marple's focused on Elsie. She's scared out of her wits, but she's telling the truth. Back at her cottage, Miss Marple lays out her clues, the vicar's note, her sketches of the symbols, and now those claw marks burned into her memory. The box is key, but opening it feels like inviting trouble. She thinks about the old tale of John Harrow, a 1600s vicar accused of witchcraft, buried in that tomb to keep the dark down. Did Reverend Clement stumble onto the same secret? Was he trying to reinforce that seal, only to get killed for it? She heads to the church to find Tom Blackwood, who's polishing the pews, his hands shaky. "Tom," she says, "tell me about the tomb." No dodging now. He grips the rag, his face lined and tired. John Harrow, that old vicar. They said he called up something evil, something that needed locking away. The tomb's the seal, but it's failing. Miss Marple, I've heard it scratching, moving. She presses for more, but he shuts down, muttering about cursed blood in the village. Is he talking about the old stories or something closer, like a family secret? Before she can ask, Mrs. Price, the baker's wife, runs in, panting. Miss Marple, Griselda's gone, vanished from the vicarage. Imagine this. A murdered vicar, a humming box, claw marks in the dirt, and now Griselda's missing. Miss Marple's pulse quickens, but she keeps her cool. She grabs her lantern and heads to the vicarage, the fog so thick it's like walking through a dream. The parlour's empty, the fire out, but the box is still on the desk and it's open. Inside, a small black stone pulses with a faint, sickly glow. From the churchyard, that tapping starts again, louder, faster, like something's clawing its way out. Where's Griselda, and what's that stone? Is it the key to the seal, or the thing breaking it? Miss Marple's got a sinking feeling. The answers are in that tomb, and they're not going to be pretty. Chapter 4. Last time in St. Mary Mead, 1926, the mystery got darker. Reverend Clement was stabbed dead in his vicarage, with a strange book of symbols and a humming wooden box tied to an old curse. Miss Marple found claw marks and a shadowy figure in the foggy graveyard, while Griselda, the vicar's wife, seemed to be hiding something. Tom backward hinted at a sealed evil in an old tomb, and then Griselda vanished. That box was open, revealing a glowing black stone, and a creepy tapping echoed from the churchyard. Can you imagine stepping into this nightmare? Let's see what Miss Marple uncovers next. The fog's thicker than ever as Miss Marple stands in the vicarage parlour, staring at the open box. That black stone inside pulses with a faint, sickly light, like a heartbeat you can see. The tapping from the churchyard is louder now, a steady thump-thump that makes the air feel alive with menace. She's not scared well, not much, but her mind's racing. Griselda's gone, the box is open, and whatever's in that tomb is getting restless. She grabs her lantern and the box, wrapping the stone in her handkerchief to avoid touching it. No time to waste. She heads to the churchyard, the fog swirling like a living thing. The village is quiet, the kind of silence that makes your skin prickle. The church looms ahead, its steeple a dark spike against the grey. That sour, decayed smell is stronger, curling up from the ground like a warning. Miss Marple's boots crunch on the gravel path. As she reaches the old tomb, its door still ajar from yesterday. The claw marks in the dirt are fresh, deeper, like something's been busy. Picture this, you guys, a foggy graveyard, a creepy tomb, and a glowing stone in your pocket. Would you go down those dark steps? Miss Marple's no fool, but she's not backing down either. She lights her lantern and pushes the tomb door open, the creak echoing like a scream. The air inside is cold, damp, and heavy with that sour stench. Stone steps spiral down into darkness, the faint glow she saw before, flickering at the bottom. She takes a deep breath and starts descending, her lantern casting long. Wobbly shadows on the mossy walls dot at the bottom. She finds a small chamber, its walls carved with those same symbols from the book, the stone, and the box. They're glowing now, a sickly green that pulses in time with the tapping. In the center, there's a stone slab, like an altar, and on it lies Griselda unconscious, her hands folded over her chest like she's been laid out for burial. Miss Marple's heart lurches, but she checks Griselda's pulse. It's there, faint but steady. She's alive, thank goodness. Griselda, wake up, Miss Marple whispers, shaking her gently. No response. She notices a thin chain around Griselda's neck, holding a pendant with, you guessed it, those creepy symbols. Miss Marple's about to slip it off when the tapping stops, replaced by a low growl that vibrates through the chamber. She freezes, lantern raised, and sees it, a shadow in the corner, tall and thin, its edges blurred like smoke. Its eyes glow red, not like fire, but like blood, and it's watching her. What would you do, you guys? Face a shadowy monster in a tomb? Miss Marple's voice is steady as she says, I don't know what you are, but you won't frighten me. The shadow tilts its head like it's amused, then glides closer, the air growing colder with every inch. She clutches the box, the stone inside pulsing faster. The shadow hisses, a sound like tearing paper, and lunges. Miss Marple ducks, surprisingly quick for an old lady, and the shadow slams into the wall, the symbols flaring brighter. She scrambles to Griselda, trying to drag her toward the steps, but the shadow recovers, blocking the way. It's not solid, not quite, but its claws long. Twisted things slash the air, missing her by inches. She's trapped, and Griselda's still out cold. Then she remembers the stone in her pocket. It's a long shot, but she pulls it out, holding it up. The shadow screeches, recoiling like the light burns it. The symbols on the walls pulse wildly, and the tapping starts again, frantic now, coming from the slab. Miss Marple's mind clicks. The stone, the box, the symbols, they're part of the seal. and Griselda's pendant might be too. She yanks the pendant off Griselda's neck, her hands steady despite the shadow circling like a wolf. She places it on the slab with the black stone, and the chamber shakes, dust falling from the ceiling. The shadow howls, its form flickering, but it doesn't vanish. Instead, it dives into the slab, and the tapping becomes a pounding like something's. Breaking through from below, Miss Marple grabs Griselda, hauling her up the steps with strength she didn't know she had. The chamber's shaking harder, cracks spreading across the walls. She makes it to the graveyard, gasping, and lays Griselda on the grass. The fog's so thick she can barely see the church, but she hears shouts villagers drawn by the noise. Constable Hurst pushes through, his face pale. "Miss Marple, what's happening? No time," she snaps, surprising even herself. "Get Griselda to safety." Hurst and Tom Blackwood, who's appeared out of nowhere, carry Griselda toward the vicarage. Miss Marple turns back to the tomb, the pounding louder, the ground trembling. She's still got the box, but the stone and pendant are inside on that slab. Did she just break the seal instead of fixing it? She hurries to the church where villagers are gathering, their faces a mix of fear and curiosity. Elsie Turner's there, clutching her shawl. "It's the curse, isn't it?" she whispers. Miss Marple doesn't answer, but her mind's racing. The old story about John Harrow, the 1600s vicar, said he bound something evil here, something that needed a seal, stones, symbols, maybe even blood. Was Griselda part of it? Her pendant? Her secrecy? Miss Marple's starting to wonder if the vicar's wife knew more than she let on. She slips into the church, hoping to find answers in the old records. The air's heavy, the stained glass windows dark with fog. She finds the parish register, its pages brittle, and flips to the 1600s. There it is, John Harrow, accused of witchcraft, buried in the tomb to bind the shadow. But there's a note, scrawled in faded ink. The seal requires a guardian. Blood calls to blood. Miss Marple's breath catches. Griselda's family has been in St. Mary Mead for generations. Is she a guardian or something worse? Outside, the pounding stops, replaced by a silence that's somehow scarier. The fog parts for a moment and Miss Marple sees it, the shadow, taller now, standing at the graveyard's edge, its red eyes fixed on her. The villagers scream, scattering, but Miss Marple stands her ground, clutching the box. The shadow doesn't move, just watches like it's waiting. What's it waiting for, you guys? Is Griselda the key? Or is something bigger about to break free? Miss Marple's got the box, but no stone, no pendant, and a village on the edge of panic. And then, from the vicarage, a new sound, a scream, raw and desperate. That sounds just like Griselda. Chapter 5, let's catch up quick. Last time in St. Mary Mead, 1926. Things went from creepy to outright terrifying. Reverend Clement was stabbed dead, tied to a strange book and a humming box with eerie symbols. Miss Marple found a shadowy figure, with glowing red eyes in the graveyard, claw marks, and a carved stone linked to an old curse. Griselda vanished, only to be found unconscious in a tomb, wearing a pendant with those same symbols. Miss Marple grabbed her and escaped as the tomb shook, but she left the glowing stone and pendant behind, possibly breaking the seal. Now the shadows watching from the graveyard, and a scream Griselda's cuts through the fog from the vicarage. Can you imagine facing that thing in the dark? Let's see how Miss Marple wraps this up. The scream echoes, sharp and raw, pulling Miss Marple's eyes from the shadow in the graveyard to the vicarage. The fog's so thick it's like wading through milk, but she runs, her lantern swinging, the wooden box still clutched in her hand. The village is chaos vergers shouting, lanterns bobbing as they scatter. That sour, decayed smell chokes the air, stronger now, like something's rotting just out of sight. The shadow hasn't moved, its red eyes glowing through the mist. But Miss Marple's got no time for it. Griselda's in trouble. She bursts into the vicarage, heart pounding but face calm. The parlours and mess chairs tipped over, curtains torn. Griselda's on the floor, conscious now, her eyes wide with terror. Constable Hurst is there, trying to calm her, while Tom Blackwood hovers by the door, looking like he's seen a ghost. It was here. Griselda sobs, pointing at the window. That thing it spoke my name. Miss Marple kneels beside her, voice steady. What did it say? Griselda. The young woman shudders. It said, the seal is broken. The blood is mine. I don't know what it means. Her hands twist her dress, and Miss Marple notices the pendant's gone left in the tomb. But there's a faint burn mark on Griselda's neck, like the chain scorched her skin. Picture this. You guys, a terrified widow, a shadowy monster, and a village about to lose it. What would you do? Miss Marple's mind is a whirlwind, piecing together the clues. The book, the stone, the pendant, the tomb all tied to John Harrow's curse from the 1600s. That parish record mentioned a guardian, and blood calls to blood. Griselda's family goes back centuries in St. Mary Mead. Is she the guardian or the key to unleashing whatever Harrow bound? Constable, Miss Marple says. We need to get back to the tomb. Now, Hurst looks like he'd rather face a lion, but he nods. Tom Blackwood grabs a shovel, muttering, Told you it was bad, Miss Marple. They head out. Griselda clinging to Miss Marple's arm. The fog's heavier, the shadow gone from the graveyard. But that pounding starts again, deep and rhythmic, shaking the ground dot at the tomb. The door's wide open, and the air's thick with that sour stench. The steps down are slick with moss, and the glowing symbols on the walls pulse faster, like a heartbeat. Miss Marple leads the way, lantern high, the box in her pocket. At the bottom, the stone slab is cracked, the black stone and pendant still. There, glowing brighter, the pounding's coming from below the slab, and the air feels electric, like a storm's about to break. Griselda gasps, pointing at the slab. It's moving, and it is shifting slightly, like something's pushing. Up, Miss Marple's heart races, but she's thinking fast. The seal's broken and the shadow's free, but it's tied to Griselda's blood. She grabs the pendant and stone, ignoring the heat burning through her handkerchief. Griselda, she says, did Leonard know about your family? About the curse? Griselda's eyes fill with tears. He found out. My great-aunt told me I was a guardian, that our blood kept the evil locked away. Leonard was researching it, trying to strengthen the seal. He said someone was tampering with it, someone in the village. Her voice breaks. I didn't believe. Him thought he was paranoid. Then he died. Miss Marple's mind clicks. Someone wanted the seal broken. But who? She's about to ask when the slab lurches, a crack splitting it in two. The shadow rises from the gap, taller now, its claws gleaming, eyes like burning coals. Hurst yells, swinging his truncheon, but it passes through the shadow like smoke. Tom swings his shovel, hitting nothing. The shadow laughs, low and cruel, and lunges for Griselda. Miss Marple doesn't think she acts. She thrusts the pendant and stone into Griselda's hands, shouting, Hold them. You're the guardian. Griselda clutches them, trembling, and the symbols flare blindingly bright. The shadow screeches, its form twisting, shrinking. Miss Marple grabs the wooden box, slamming it onto the slab, and the symbols on it glow too. Syncing with the pendant and stone. The pounding slows, the air grows heavy, and the shadow collapses into a writhing mass. Sucked back into the crack. The slab seals shut, the glow fading, the pounding gone. Griselda collapses, sobbing, still holding the stone and pendant. Miss Marple's breath comes in gasps, but she's calm, piecing it together. The seal's restored. She says, "Your blood, Griselda, it's the key. But someone broke it deliberately." Back in the village, dawn breaks, the fog thinning. Miss Marple sits in her cottage, sipping tea, her knitting untouched. She's thinking about that someone. Tom Blackwood's fear, his mutterings about bad blood, he knew more than he said. And Elsie Turner saw the shadow near the vicarage before the murder. Was Tom tampering with the seal, driven by old grudges or something darker? Or was it someone else, hiding in plain sight? She visits Griselda, now safe at the tea shop. The pendant back around her neck. "Keep it close," Miss Marple says. "You're the guardian now." Griselda nods, still pale. Miss Marple's not done, though. She's got a list of villagers to question, starting with Tom. The shadow's gone. But the human who started this is still out there. As she steps outside, the church bells ring. Clear and bright, the fog's lifting, but a chill lingers. Miss Marple looks at the graveyard, quiet now, and wonders, is the seal truly safe? Or is something still waiting in the dark? And who's carrying the knife that killed the vicar? What do you think, you guys? Is Tom the culprit, or is there another villain in St. Mary Mead? Miss Marple's got her eyes open, and she's not stopping until the truth's out.